try to take advantage of what the defense gives us. Offense determines tempo. Defense determines what the play is going to be for the most part. That's kind of been our motto over the last 15 years here. So do we want to rush the ball? Yes. Will we beat our heads against the wall? No.
Is there anything in particular that really stands out about this Tulsa defense that they do well?
I like 90. I like the nose guard. I think he's a really good player. I think it's 15 that plays on the edge. I think he's a good player. In the secondary, they know where they're at, it looks like. They're playing quite a bit of man for that structure of defense. So they must feel good about their ability to do different things. So I think the other guy is number 47. He makes a lot of plays. So I just like how they play. I think they're a good defense. I think they're playing well. And then, as I said, offensively, they put a little running game together and start throwing the ball better and played considerably better, in my opinion, in the second half. Michigan State's a difficult to play field or a difficult stadium to play offense in if you're the visiting team. So they've been successful on defense a long time there, and I think that was a tough deal for them. They had some problems with snaps. They lost about 40 yards or something on snaps in that game. So they're doing good, in my opinion, playing well.
Mike, Bill talked about the run-pass ratio Saturday against McNeese, and everything kind of went out the window after you started subbing in the second half. But how did the offensive line look? Because obviously they're a big part of whether Chuba, the run game, really gets cranked up. They played so well at Oregon State. Did they drop off a little, or what'd you see?
Yeah, two things. The offensive line was average, and Chuba put the ball on the ground. And put the ball on the ground, you're out. So he's not going to get his carries if he fumbles, and the offensive line was average.
Coach, last week you talked about Cooper and his work ethic. How do you feel to see him get his way?
We put him in there and let him score. He's become one of my favorites now just because of his journey to get to where he's at right now. Go through NEO and have success up there and then walk on here and say, I still want to play football. And then the work ethic I mentioned last week that he's put in, the time and effort. And young people in society today need to be rewarded for that type of work ethic. So that's a reward that we get him. And as he continues to improve, I see him getting more carries. He's slowed a little bit with a quad strain. He didn't practice much last week, but he wanted to get in the game and play. But he should be better this week.
You said after. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Red One Ryan, walked on and he got hit in his
That's right.
What do you think about how he's prepared?
He falls in the same category. He's been a captain for us. He's been on our committee. He's big, involved politically on campus as a leader in the social environment with the students. And to be able to get in there and play and get an interception is pretty cool. So I enjoy seeing those guys have success. That's a fun part of my job.
You said after the game that you were going to have a lot of guys to look at, especially once you started putting guys in the third and fourth quarter. Did you see anything out of the guys that came off the bench that you really liked? One guy that seemed noticeable immediately was Cameron Farrar, the freshman linebacker. He's like a missile.
Farrar made a play or two, and Kropp made a couple plays. Hunley, the freshman defensive end, ran well down the field on kickoff and showed some speed and activity. He got blocked at the end, didn't really know what he was doing. But and then we had a number of young guys playing on both sides of the ball that got a lot of work in, and so we were pleased that we could get those guys in the game and let them play.
Taylor went 4 for 4 at quarterback. I know nothing was really downfield, but
right.
He hit 4 passes.
That's awesome. Yeah, that means it's good to get those guys in, and he's had the experience of playing in a big-time college football game.
Was one of the MVP awards you gave to Amon. What do you think is his strength as far as being able to set the tone early with defense to let those younger guys have opportunities?
He's learning and getting a little better. He doesn't have a lot of experience, and so each week he should and he has improved with his feel for the game. And as those guys play that position where there's so much activity and your eyes can get violated based on the style of offenses that we face today, the more you play, the better you get. And I see him improving a little bit each week. which will help clear his mind up so he can play faster.
Is there an update on the timeline on when we see Calvin London?
Guys, I don't know. Every week we check. It's a back, so it's hard to tell. I mean, you either feel good or you don't. When you get a little older, you understand that when you deal with the back. But we just kind of test him out each week, and then if we think that he's to a point where he can compete in practice, then we start to get him ready to play in a game.
When you write your book someday, will the Tulsa game in 2011, will that get a whole chapter? Just that, or for that matter, like the
I
whole
don't spell
week?
very good. It'd be hard for me to write a book. So, and I can't type to a certain extent. Yeah, no, I know. It was, that was quite a experience. I'm guessing it's probably the longest one ever, right? I don't know if there's been one that was that long. Just all the different things. You had food, then you had to go find food, then they had to find more food, and and we were you're in a small, cramped, hot, sweaty, humidity in that locker room was probably 95%. So it took a long time. Then we had the issue with Glenn's wife, and it was just a very unusual evening. And I saw in forecast rain over there. It's supposed to be raining Saturday. That's what I saw. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought that's what I saw for.
Thursday and Friday right now.
Oh, it is. So it's backed off on Saturday. Okay. So.
But I mean, I know the athletic directors were out on the field talking a lot during that delay. Was there a point at which you said, let's pack and go home, let's get out?
My first question is, why are they on the field? It's a lightning delay.
Oh, right. They were, though. They were on 35, I remember.
That would be the old got to have enough common sense to get out of the rain theory. Who was that, Bubba? Yeah. Anyway, I think once or twice somebody came in and said, do you want to play? And I said, well, we're over here. It's already 1 a.m. Might as well play. And they said, what would be the determining factor where you wouldn't? I said, I don't know. My bedtime is like 9:30 or 10, so I'm already at breakfast. But I know that got mentioned several times, and you would have to visit with Coach Holder and Bubba to even know what discussion was taking place there on the field in a lightning storm.
I know that they agreed if there's one more delay, we're out of here.
That could be true. They didn't even tell me at some point. I just said, just let me know if we got to go out and warm up and play or if we're going home. Either way, I'm good. It's one of those deals where they try to get you in on the conversation, but you really don't have any say-so to make you feel good.
It was already a weird kick for TV. Right?
9 o'clock or something like that.
You kick at 12:16. I mean,
Yeah.
Did you ever catch yourself thinking, this is nuts? We're out here pregame stretching at 11:45.
Yeah, I thought it was unusual, and I'm not a big fan of it. I just don't think it's a good time for college football, and I certainly felt that way when we came out to restretch at about 2 a.m. And they were still taking TV timeouts. And I asked the referee if he had any control over that. And he said, why? And I said, do you think anybody's watching? I mean, nobody's watching the game, much less a timeout. So.
Was all that time in the locker room, you think, a nice bonding experience for that 2011 team?
It was hot, and guys were taking their pads off. The room was about like this, and you had 75 players in there that had been sweating. And so I'm guessing that the only bonding was kind of like, well, your generation's different, but when I was a little kid, you used to take family vacations, and they put you in the back seat, and you used to draw an imaginary line where you don't touch your brother or sister. Okay, so I'm guessing their bonding was don't touch me, I'm hot, would be my guess. But I was in a little training room, like another little room where they do taping. The coaches were in there. And so we had the same issue going. We were all kind of like drawing our space. So it was pretty humid.
At what point in the evening did you get the notification about Glenn's wife?
About what?
Glenn Spencer's wife.
That was right during the delay, I think. I think it was right during the delay is when somebody told me.
Did Bill Young call plays, or did he serve as the coordinator? No, wait a minute. What am I saying? Bill was the coordinator then.
It was.
Yeah,
Bill
yeah.
was there, yeah.
Yeah,
Glenn
I'm
was the
sorry.
assistant, yeah.
So you get this 3.5-hour delay, and Glenn's wife passes away.
Mhm.
And I don't know how the hell you even think about football.
Was it difficult? Yes. I mean, obviously, we sent Glenn. He left. And then it is difficult because we had been close with her during that process. You know, it's a long story, but she had become really close with our group during that process. So it was difficult. You know, I think for me, you fall back on what would Angela want, what would Glenn want. They would want you to do what you do. Like most of us, you tell your kids, hey, if something ever happens to me, you do this, take care of your brothers, live your life, whatever. Don't worry about me. Obviously, I'm a non-factor from this point moving forward. And I'm guessing that, he had to go, but I think, he said, hey, you carry on and do what you need to do. So.
Is this the best group of receivers you've ever had after the catch in regard to having several guys? I mean, those 4 big pass plays the other night, 90% of that yardage was after the catch.
Yeah, the year, Whedon's year, second year, we had a bunch of guys that could catch and run too. They were all pretty good. I don't know who was the best. I know that these guys seem to be doing well with the ball afterwards. Wallace can run, 8 can run. 17 is deceivingly fast. So 35, CJ, once he gets going, he takes almost 1 step per 5 yards. And that's the difference with him. It's a little bit deceptive of how fast he is. When you go to watch a high school player and you're evaluating them, if they're 2 steps every 5 yards, they're going to be pretty close to a 4 or 5 guy. Anything over that's lower, and anything above that is slower. And he's almost 1 step per 5 yards once he's going. So I don't know how fast he runs, but I know it's somewhat deceiving because of the strides that he takes.
Wallace, I don't know if you really can get better at that, but like the second of his touchdowns, no indecision at all, no dancing. He cuts back inside and goes.
Yeah, those are. I'm not sure that. I know everybody talks about Dunn being a good coach. I'm not sure that he actually was involved in that part of it. I think there's some nature and ability, reflexes, and his ability to make a play was probably a big factor in that.
That was something we didn't see a ton of from him last year, of all the things that he did do well. Has that always been part of his game, or is that?
I don't know. You asked the same question Gage did after the game. How come he never did that last year? And I said, I don't know. You need to ask him. But he's done it 3 times now, right, this year, and so it stood out more. He looks faster. Maybe he's faster. Maybe he's, human body. The male human body develops up till 27 years old. So I guess maybe he's gotten a little stronger and a little faster. It certainly looks that way. Well, I guess only time will tell as the season goes on.
You talked about CJ a little bit the other day. He said he really needed that year, last year, to get ready. How much has he progressed?
Well, CJ needed more than a year. I mean, he was a long ways away from the structure and discipline it takes to play at this level. And to his benefit, he has come in and worked extremely hard. He's gained, 25 pounds. It looks like he's gained 50 from when he came in. He turned sideways. He looks like that pole right there on that rail. But he's worked hard, and he's changed his lifestyle and adjusted to our culture. Not that it was bad. He's not the only one. We have a lot of young men that are that way. But he was just kind of come and go. And so he didn't have he was nowhere near being ready to play last year, which is the case for most of these guys. But he has made tremendous strides, and his best years are ahead of him, and his ceiling is pretty high. He's going to be even stronger at this time next year and even faster, and should have another 10 or 12 pounds. He already can leap and has good ball skills, so it's pretty exciting to watch him improve.
Offenses evolve. For instance, like Bill mentioned, the change from, how balanced the first week. It was a heavy pass, this week. The Cowboy backs, do you get a sense from fall camp and what you've seen in practice that they're going to come into the flow of this here pretty soon, and you feel good about them as a weapon?
Well, they're in the flow. Based on the structure of the defenses we've seen, they don't get the ball much. So, I mean, they're involved in everything we're doing, but, you know, you played a team Saturday that played quarters, and the safeties are setting down low, and that's basically their territory. So they're not as much involved. You know, you got 3 linebackers inside, you got 2 safeties setting down low, you got 5 guys in the hash, you have 2 guys outside the hash. So most of your throws are going to go outside. I mean, football's a numbers game. It's pretty, you know, coaches know that. It's no secret. But that area that they play in, those safeties are setting down there, and so those are things as a quarterback, once you mature enough, you try to avoid.
Jelani Woods had great options in recruiting, right, when he committed to you guys and signed with you guys as a quarterback. And then it's presented to him. He said, Coach Ursich just presented to him, you know, if you want to get on the field, you could try cowboy back. You could be a tight end. And I guess with all the quarterback movement in the last year or so, it's really become kind of an astonishing story that this guy was so willing to make that switch to get on the field. And I talked to him about it Saturday night, and he said it took me 5 minutes to make that decision. But don't you just have a ton of respect for a guy to do what he's done?
Yeah, he's watched Mason, so he knew that was an issue, and then he saw Taylor, and he watched Taylor in practice, and so he's probably adding up years in his head and realizes, I don't know if I want to do this for 3 years when I can get on the field and play. You know, he was having a really good year last year before he got hurt. And so, and the truth of the matter is what the ability that he brings to the table is, if he continues on and stays healthy and works, is a pretty good tool for the NFL with what he can do. And he's fortunate that McIndoe's coaching him, because McIndoe's a former offensive lineman, so he leans heavy on teaching him how to block, because that's where he's going to make his money. And then his receiving skills are good because of his eye-hand coordination, because he played quarterback. But his willingness and ability to block could potentially get him to play this game for quite a while. So he's fortunate he has him. And, you know, you're talking about a kid that never misses class, never shows up late, never fails any of the drug tests, does everything right. He fits our culture perfect. Never hear a word from him. And that's why he's having success.
You know, when he was a junior in Atlanta, high school junior, he probably thought, I'm going to play in the NFL, you know, as a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And
I thought I was going to, too. I thought I was going to, too.
But, I mean, it's one thing for a guy to switch from, like, Donovan from, you know, Donovan's not even a good example because he was a quarterback.
He did for a
But
while,
Andre
yeah,
Sexton
right.
switches from safety to linebacker or whatever. But to go from quarterback to an effective end-of-the-line blocking guy?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's 6'7", and he was a skinny 235 pounds. So I think Rob's got him to 275 now. He may be more than that. I don't know. So he had the structure to make the move. And you know, the reason we asked him, because we knew we had Mason and Taylor for two more years, and there was no reason for him to sit there with the ability he had. If he was my size, he would probably still be a quarterback.
About 99 out of 100 guys in that position would just transfer.
Could be pretty accurate with all the stuff that's going on now. You know, I don't know if there's any truth to it. All the Dolphins are wanting on the portal. I mean, that's just the first thing you hear, that, you know, a team loses a game and then you hear about guys wanting to be traded. I mean, so it's pretty very common right now.
After the first 2 games, is it a fair presumption that your linebacker play has been about as sound as far as being in the right places?
They've been pretty good up to this point. They'll have a different challenge this week with the RPO system that they'll face. At this time next week, I'll be able to give you probably a much more accurate answer. This will be a little bit different challenge for them to see how they handle this situation.
Like Brendan Evers picked up a knock Saturday. Is there any update on his status?
He what?
Brendan Evers looked like he got a little injured.
Oh,
Saturday.
yeah. I think he's going to be fine. I'll find all that out tomorrow.
Coach, as things walk-ons are in your program, leading a couple of guys from Stillwater High there are walking on. What's that mean to have those guys in your program?
We have a great relationship with the coaches at Stillwater. They're free to use well, not free to use, but they're free to come in our meetings and come to our practices, and so they can do whatever they want. I think it's important that the university and the high school have relationships, not only athletically, but should be academically. We need to work together. We're all in the same boat here. So their coaches do a really good job, and then when they have young men that want to play college football and are trying to decide whether they want to go to a level of maybe what people think they can play coming out of high school, or they just want to go to Oklahoma State and be an engineer, then we want them to play football here if they want to play football. Their families here in the community for most of them, and sometimes, well, not sometimes, I mean, most young men aren't gifted enough to play at the highest level, but they still want to play the game. So why not have an opportunity here? So by having a relationship with the high school and athletic department, and then when those young men want to come play for us and walk on, it's a pretty cool situation.
You have a lifetime of, you probably faced Tulsa far more than any other non-conference team in your football life. I mean, do you consider Tulsa a rival, or what kind of relationship?
I think it's a great in-state game. The reason that we signed the last contract, we went to a 1-1. There's a lot of reasons we did it. Many of them people don't care about. It's too complicated to get into. But so, one, financially, it's a good decision for both schools, in our opinion. What I was briefed on before we decided to go with it. It's a road game for us, but for Oklahoma State, essentially it's another home game. We have a lot of Oklahoma State people in the Tulsa area, and then even for Oklahoma City, you're 2 hours up the turnpike, and it's the same for Tulsa. So it makes sense for us to play. It's good for a lot of reasons, and so I just think it's a really quality game for both programs.
You've got several guys on the team from Tulsa. Does that add any extra motivation for them playing in their home city?
Oh, I don't know. I've never been the motivation part of what we do. I don't know anymore what with young people, what drives them. That's why we lean so heavy on preparation during the week. If I knew, we wouldn't have been so flat in the last game in the first half. Whatever I did to motivate him didn't work. So I think, do I think that they enjoy playing in Tulsa because their friends and family can drive 20 minutes to the game? Yes, I do. Just like when we play in the state of Texas, the young men from there, their families can get to the game, and it's a pretty cool situation for those guys.
Just off the wall on motivation, I know you like military history. Did you happen to see, because it got replayed a lot, even after the game, Jeff Monken, the Army coach, did you see his pep talk?
I did not. Pre-game? Yeah, well, I need to borrow it. Obviously, it worked good, but I need to.
Things that don't carry over to your group,
Right.
his group, but yeah, it was a pretty good pep talk.
Did it have to do with like holding guns and standing guard?
Infantry on the patrol.
Well, that doesn't carry over to my guys. No question. But I need to have. We need to find that. That'd be good.
Sounds like your halftime pep talk worked a little better, though.
It was basically a 12 to 15 second, 4-letter word motivation.
Holder said last week.
I don't think it was as detailed as Coach Monken's was at Army. Maybe it was detail. I think
By the way,
it was real detail.
Shortest halftime interview on the radio network as well.
Yeah, it was real detail. Yeah.
So your pep talk was more like a Todd Monken pep talk than
Well, it was more like a Todd Monken and not a Jeff Monken. Yeah. It was a little General Patton-ish. If you ever read his book, you follow me on that.
Coach Holder said last week that after the offense played the way it did at Oregon State, that you guys sold quite a few tickets last week, season tickets, and then you show up here Saturday against an FCS opponent, and it's 55,000. Just wonder what your reaction to that crowd on opening night was.
It's interesting. Attendance across the country is down in football and basketball, more so. I don't know what we do about it. There's so many other things going on in life with people, with raising children and access to online streaming and all the reasons. I don't need to get into all that, but and it's easy at times to sit in a parking lot and put a 70-inch big screen and hook up a satellite, have your own beverages and food, and watch multiple games. But just the tradition of going in a game and being in the environment is something that I don't think that you can replace any other place or any other way. We had a good crowd at Oregon State. I mean, I was surprised how many people we had at Oregon State, and then the crowd that we had here. I do think that our people behind the scenes have done a nice job of marketing and sales, but it obviously helps when you win. There's no question. And so the fans and the people that come to the game, they'll never know how much it means to me personally, just for our players, because this is an extremely difficult sport. I mean, it's every day, and for them they put in a lot of work. We have 1,000 on the APR. They're competitive. Do we win every game? No, we didn't. We're trying, yeah. Are we fun to watch? Probably. We're entertaining. Coach has long hair. We throw the ball down the field a lot. We tackle better this season so far, so it's pretty entertaining. So we're very thankful for the people that show up, and it makes a big difference. The message I give them, I never say one way or the other because that's not my business. But if you ever start to not do it, I don't think people realize the impact it can have on your university. If attendance starts to decline and things fade away and football becomes not so popular, you'd be shocked of what happens to your enrollment and your overall feeling about your university. So the majority of the people that are at our games, outside of your students and your young people, are graduates of Oklahoma State. There's a percentage out there, I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that there's second and third and even some fourth generation people out here at our games. That's what makes this place special. It'll always be that way. And for them to show up like that, pretty cool. And it's huge for the university.
95 degrees and kick too.
Yeah, I mean, I was hot just standing down on the field. So, but it means a lot. And the tailgating. I mean, you drive over here past the soccer field, it's full of those big Winnebago machines, whatever those are. You can't find a parking spot in there. And then I come from the south from my house through the campus to get dropped off at the student union on game day before we eat dinner. Well, it's full. People everywhere. There's people walking. You can't get there. They're walking across the street, jaywalking. The stoplight says don't walk. They're still walking, and it's a good thing, right? There's just people everywhere. So we're lucky.
Think about it. When Terry Don was here, there was no tailgate culture, almost none. And you go from that to what you have now.
There's two things that, in my opinion, everybody gets an opinion, right? We live in a world where everybody has an opinion. One, we started winning consistently, and two, we're fun to watch. So, as I've said for 15 years now, my goal is when the fans come to the game, no matter who we're playing, they know that if we play sound, we can win the game. So they'll come back and watch. They don't like coming to games if they don't think you have a chance. With the exception of maybe one or two teams. There's like, well, I'm going to go anyway. But they want to know that no matter what, you have a chance to win. I think those two things have contributed in a huge way to the tailgating and the attendance that we've had over the last 10 years.
Last week you said Israel Anton was sitting on G, waiting on O. Is he getting closer?
He's hanging over G, just not quite on O. It was just a technicality. I wish I could expedite the process, but essentially it's administrative issues that are out of our hands. And I don't have any information. If I did, I'd give you.
Obviously, you're focusing on this team, but with how many guys you have produced going to the NFL, how much do you try to keep track of them and what they're doing, especially now that the season started?
Well, Chris, the real deal, gives me a piece of paper, and I'll be getting it later today, or usually Tuesday because of the Monday night game, on everybody that's playing and what they did, this many tackles, this many carries, this many yards. We keep up with every one of those guys. They're an important part of what we do. We're at what, 19? How many of them made the cut?
12 guys are on active.
12 active right now, and then I think 7 on practice squads, something like that. So he'll update me on everything going on. we work all day Sunday, and so I don't ever see any games. But he updates me on what's going on, and we put all the new gear that we have for our team. We box up a nice package and send it to all of them and thank them for what they've done. And so it's a big part of who we are. We're working hard. We, as a group, there's a number of people involved in trying to reconnect with our alumni in football more so than ever. And our numbers just keep going up. The people we have back on homecoming. The alumni golf is, what was it, how many, 100 and what last year? 145 or something that take off on a work day and come and play golf, and we're here for the spring game. So those things were non-existent 10 years ago. And there's a group of people that are working hard in that area because that's really who we are. And these are the young men that we put a lot of time into, not just the NFL ones, guys that are in the real world and have real jobs. They're coming back and being a part of our team just like the other players.
I know you haven't seen the numbers yet, but you're going to be happy with some of them. I know Chris Carson had a big game. Ogba had the only sack for the Chiefs yesterday. How important is that for when it comes to recruiting? Not only are you sending guys to the NFL, but they're having success now.
No doubt, it's a big deal. I mean, young people that we're recruiting now, it's bright lights and things move fast, right? And they want to see success. Sure, they want an education, but 95% of them want to know how much you play on TV, what your uniforms look like, how many guys you put in the NFL. And so all those things factor in.
Jim has said a couple of times that he's working to change the defensive culture here. What does that look like to you? What does a better defensive culture look like?
I think the teams in this league, they're all doing it. They're all trying to change the culture of what the offenses are in this league. I mean, it is what it is. You go out there and people bring up the SEC, what's the first thing they talk about? Defense. People bring up the Big 12, first thing they talk about, offense. So I think he's trying to implement or put a strategy into place to let's start by having success, and then it's going to be different here defensively. The culture of we're not always going to rely on the offense to win every game, and it takes time, and it's not easy in this league, but I think he's on the right track.
You mentioned how important it was to you to be able to get Drew out there, and Saturday he got to go out there, and it wasn't just to run out the clock, it was to throw some passes. How important and cool was that for you to see?
One, he deserved to play. Two, he played well. We left him with we left the starting offensive line with him, I think, 2 series, so he could be with guys that he's practiced with. And then after that, we started to put other guys in that hadn't got as much work, so it becomes more difficult for him, especially his position. But for what we asked him to do in those series, he was excellent. He graded out at 100%. I think he had 24 plays, and when I looked at his grade sheet, he was at 100% with what he did in his reads and his ability to get us in the right play and where he distributed the football. What you got, Bill?
No, I'll walk with you for a minute if that's all right.
You got it.
Yeah, because it's more about Tulsa.
All right, guys. Thank you, guys and gals.